a nod to the wonderful folks over on R² Circle, whose post inspired this list that you're watching right now. It's time to name and shame those dreadful wrestling moves that haven't just gotten worse with age. They've generally been awful since the very beginning. So I am Gareth, this is What Culture Wrestling, and here are 10 terrible wrestling moves that have never looked good. Number 10, Seth Rollins' Pedigree. Just when you think you've seen all Seth Rollins has to offer in between those ropes, the visionary goes and throws a majestic springboard senton lion salt combination out into the world. Look at that thing. That's not to say that every single move the former Shield man opts to unleash on his unfortunate opponents leaves fans in awe of the star though. One freaking attack most folks would be glad to see the back of was taken from Papa H after the game gave the Raw man his blessing to use it as his finisher when the Stomp was originally banned. It's just a shame Rollins evidently didn't bother to really study how Triple H managed to make his emphatic pedigree look like such a formidable weapon. Rather than holding onto his opponent's arms until the very last moment, making the facebuster look that bit more impactful, Rollins releases their limbs way too early and ends up resembling a drunken bloke accidentally falling on top of a pal mid-play fight. We've all been there. He has at least largely steered clear from using the disappointing version of the pedigree as a finisher over the last few years, but most wouldn't be that heartbroken if he quietly retired it sooner rather than later. Number 9, the hanging double stomp. A move taking a bit of time to successfully set up doesn't instantly make it a terrible one. See Kenny Omega's terrific one-winged angel. But while that dramatic / complicated finisher requiring a few seconds to effectively execute, and the victim involved often being too battered to wriggle out of it makes sense, the same cannot be said for the routinely frustrating hanging double stomp. Admittedly, the moment boot meets chest is actually quite sickening more often than not, but it's the visual of a rival happily holding themselves up on the ropes after apparently being beaten up and stupidly waiting to be annihilated below that often leaves fans utterly perplexed. Why would you just perfectly position yourself, often for what feels like a lifetime, to be obliterated by your opponent as they calmly get their balance on the top rope? It just looks silly, doesn't it? Alberto Del Rio would regularly force his dance partners to hang on in this dumb position for an age during his WWE run. But Andrade El Idolo has also been known to make wrestlers even as outstanding as Bryan Danielson look like idiots as they await an inevitable stomp-in. Number 8, the Rose Plant. The role model evidently boasts effortless charisma and an ability to produce in-ring magic given the right story and opponent, but one thing the mighty Bayley has never really possessed is an explosive or eye-catching finisher. After winning gold on a number of occasions via her rather unimpressive belly-to-belly suplex, the former hugger decided to change things up a little after her 2019 heel turn. This was a golden opportunity to really make an impact with a despicable and punishing new weapon of destruction. So what did Bayley land on for her new finisher? The consistently disappointing Rose Plant. While an arm trap headlock driver may look rather epic on paper, Bayley's version of the maneuver always just winds up looking like a messy and pretty weak facebuster. Some 4 years on from its debut, the Damage Control star is still trying to get the ugly looking attack over with a crowd who continue to struggle to find a reason to really react to the limp conclusion in 2024. This one should have been scrapped long ago. Now I want to know, what is your favorite Bayley match ever? We know she's got some great ones out there, so you let me know in the comment section down below. Number 7, Eddie Kingston's machine gun chops. The repeated slaps to the chest known as the machine gun chops can't really be classed as a collection of strikes that have never once looked good. The undisputed king of the rapid chops is obviously the great Kenta Kobashi, with the Japanese star bludgeoning his rivals with his many violent slaps into an art form. Ilya Dragunov and Gunter have both been known to let loose some pretty horrific rapid-fire chops from time to time too. But not every wrestler has quite been able to unleash a version of these attacks that makes you truly wince in your seat. As painful as it is to admit, Eddie Kingston's waves of chops in particular rarely ever look like anything more than a dude lightly spanking the peck of his opponent repeatedly. The Mad King may be a master of many strikes, but the machine gun chops just sadly aren't one of them. That being said, if you need a bloke to rip the skin off a bad un with just the one single backhand, the Mad King is definitely your man. Number 6, the Tower of Doom. It has come in many different shapes and sizes over the years, but when was the last time you properly popped over the visual of multiple wrestlers tumbling to the ground via Tower of Doom spot? Now sure, the first time you ever witnessed various performers gradually join the inevitably disastrous situation, you no doubt felt a little bit excited about the possibility of some seemingly unprecedented destruction. But ever since that initial crash, just about any fan taking in the action at home finds themselves audibly groaning the second they spot two performers slowly trying to nail another with a superplex. Wrestlers have tried to spice up the predictable multi-person wreck over the years with War Games combos and the wacky addition of even more bodies to the equation, but the end result still takes way too long to get to. to, and simply isn't mind-blowing enough to justify the often quite uninspiring setup. Admittedly, the live crowd appeared to regularly get a kick out of the stale suplex powerbomb at least. Those watching at home though have likely just gotten into the habit of fast-forwarding through the unsurprising and always dull Field Destroyer. Cheers for checking out this video today, and if you're enjoying what you're seeing, then hit that subscribe button down below. Number 5. Suicide Dives. Similarly to the aforementioned machine gun chops, there are definitely some folks out there who undoubtedly know how to nail their opponents with a properly nasty and unstoppable dive to the outside. AEW's Cash Wheeler and Darby Allin both stand out as performers who have completely mastered the art of launching their bodies at high speeds through the ropes in a way that makes you truly believe their opponents are done for. The latter Daredevil in particular boasts a suicide dive so devastating, CM Punk once admitted that everyone else on the planet should probably give up on the move as they'll never do it as well as Allin. Unfortunately, most didn't take Punk's advice and are still producing various limp jumps through the ropes to the outside. The Usos, Seth Rollins, Bryan Danielson, and many more tend to understandably protect themselves and their opponents by slowing down a touch or reaching out their arms before connecting with their target. But that just makes the move itself look like anything but a brutal aerial weapon. So what's the point of using it in the first place? If you can't execute a high-speed suicide dive or just don't want to risk injuring yourself by doing so, again, it's pretty understandable, then it may be time to leave this one to the Wheelers and Allins of the world. Number 4. CM Punk's top rope Macho Elbow. Speaking of the best in the world, after watching someone like the sensational Kairi Sane deliver her marvelous insane elbow, perhaps it'd be wise for CM Punk to follow his own advice going forward. The idea of paying tribute to the legendary Macho Man Randy Savage by adding his iconic top rope elbow to your toolkit was a lovely thought. But the voice of the voiceless has proven time after time that he is a performer simply not designed to soar off the top and deliver a picture-perfect elbow to the heart. Punk's diving elbow drop often just involves the former WWE and AEW champion flailing around in midair before landing in more of an accidental and somewhat messy splash position. There have been those rare occasions when he's connected with a slightly less jarring version of the move over the years, sure, like that time he nailed Powerhouse Hobbs with one on Rampage. But even then, this Macho tribute can't hold a candle to the magnificent elbows chucked out by the likes of Shawn Michaels and the great Savage himself over the years, with Punk actually even comically admitting that very fact on X/Twitter back in 2020. Number 3. Shane McMahon's shoot punches. When the money arrives, the most unbelievable and surprisingly painful punches in wrestling history are never too far away. You see, MMA lover Shane McMahon fancies himself a bit of a shoot fighter. So rather than taking the time to really practice and perfect a collection of worked rights and lefts that look like they would leave a mark, Shane-O simply opts to unleash often very real shots that hilariously seem about as violent as you do when attempting a bit of shadow boxing in the bathroom mirror, either legitimately hurting his opponent or missing them by a country mile. McMahon's Tyson Fury impression is about as excruciating to watch as it often is to be on the receiving end of. It typically results in the person taking them resembling a civilian being attacked by a swarm of bees too. But will that stop the jabbing McMahon family member from floating like an irritating butterfly when he inevitably dances back into the squared circle somewhere down the road? Not a chance. Number 2. The skull-crushing finale. As far as finales go, they really don't come much more underwhelming than the A-lister's skull-crushing one. It may sound pretty damn barbaric, but the reality couldn't be further from the anything but awesome truth. What could likely be a quite savage full Nelson facebuster in the hands of a performer who possessed an ounce of dynamism or explosiveness has instead become one of the least intimidating weapons in the business. Never once have folks genuinely believed Miz's opponents have just had their skulls well and truly crushed by the lackluster match ender, with most noticeably taking the annoyingly soft attack arm first after gradually being lowered to the mat. There you go, just rest there. To call it an anticlimactic way to end whatever battle the longtime WWE talent finds himself squirming through would be an understatement. But with the consistent heat generator now approaching 15 years of skull-crushing disappointment, it's safe to assume fans will have to continue enduring this bland and tame move until the two-time Grand Slam winner eventually decides to call it a day. Number 1. The Aown Down. Perhaps determined to take the crown of worst finisher on WWE television from the awesome one, Austin Theory has spent the last few years dragging many a popular babyface right down to A-Town. Everyone from the legendary Rey Mysterio to Seth Rollins to the selling machine that is Dolph Ziggler have all tried and failed to make the latest Chosen One's match ender feel like a dangerous act. There's just no getting around the fact that the former United States Champion's Fireman's Carry Facebreaker simultaneously doesn't look all that agonizing and feels needlessly convoluted. By foolishly allowing his opponents the chance to break their fall with their knees as he spins them out for the Facebreaker portion of the move, the impact is evidently lessened, and makes the person taking it look rather weak after ultimately staying down for the 3 count post Aown Down. CM Punk's GTS or Brock Lesnar's F5 are both superior alternatives to this terrible thing caught somewhere in between both of those iconic finishers. So a return to pulverizing opponents with his creative and much more impactful Ataxia, a lifting reverse STO, would definitely be preferred over a few more years of A-Town clowning about. Change it up, Theory, I demand thee. Enjoy this 10 terrible wrestling moves that have never looked good list, then check out this 10 amazing wrestling moves you'll never see again video. It always looks good. Bye bye.